Is Oklahoma planning to go big game hunting after the national championship? Well, let's talk about why that might be the case and who they might be after, according to the headline. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already, you should hit the button because we're going to talk about college football 24/7, 365. And you tell me, do you think Jim Knowles would be a good fit at Oklahoma? Because that's the subject of what we're talking about. And if you're a returning viewer and you've skipped ahead, good for you. I understand. I don't take it hard, but also I think you're going to enjoy this segment because we're talking about maybe the hottest defensive coordinator in the sport today in Jim Knowles, getting an opportunity to maybe make a little bit more money and return to Oklahoma. You'll remember that Jim Knowles really made his name being defensive coordinator for Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, and has since taken a job at Ohio State in large part because the defense was suffering so much. Now, there's a lot to pull on this. First is, I think what Jim Knowles has been able to accomplish this year could really escape the minds of many who weren't paying attention to how that defense evolved. It was good to start the year, and then it felt like it was predictable and it was vanilla, and you were allowing that perhaps you had more athleticism and talent, so you didn't need to be complicated with your scheme. You just need to let your players point and click, right? You click heads, as we say, right? Put the little scope on the aliens and shoot them. Turns out you needed to be a little bit more organized than that, so you couldn't LFG this raid. You really did have to be in concert and talking on the mics to get this done. And once it happens, it's light work. It's easy, right? Because everybody understands their job, but also everybody understands how the pass rush games are going to work, how the blitz are supposed to work. And more importantly, it's less about blitzing, and it's more about who are you sending and who you have designated to get home, because not all blitzes are meant for everybody to get there as quickly as they can. Some of these blitzes are designed for one player to be able to take advantage of what you think is a one-on-one or what you think is going to be a free run at the quarterback. I've seen a lot more of that from Jim Knowles here lately, and you've seen him still be able to take those better players who are great in space like Cody Simon and Caleb Downs and allow them to just roam and seek whom they may destroy. It is a defense that is difficult to pick up in year one, but comes along in year two in most years. Like, it's about getting comfortable in the system, and then it becomes from bend don't break to now we're going to limit explosive plays and we're going to bow up at the goal line. That last part has been really what has made this Ohio State defense sing. They have really showed us that it doesn't matter if you are up against the goal line. You can still stop people, and you can turn the ball over, and you can turn the ball over and go score on it. Just ask Jack Sawyer about that, who had the interception against Michigan and had the interception against Texas. Now, as I'm continuing to talk about these things, I also love the idea of Brent Venables and Jim Knowles being able to form up like Voltron to make things happen. I think looking at what he was able to do at Clemson, Brent Venables, and looking at what Jim Knowles has been able to do both at Oklahoma State and now at Ohio State, perhaps you can come up with a defense that is nasty and great. And in doing so, you are... Hi. Cleaning lady popped in. She reminded me that I'm now on her time as I am talking about this subject. And yeah, I am on her time. I really love my cleaning lady. She takes really good care of me. But all that to say, I like a clean house. I like a steady defense. The defense at Oklahoma being one that could be improved, but I don't think that was really the issue going into 2024. The defense was going to be fine. The reason the defense was going to be fine is because Zach Alley was basically calling the playbook that he learned from Brent Venables and had become a great coordinator in his own right. But Brent Venables is a defensive-minded coach. So you never really worry about what the defense is going to do. Of course, we kind of did in 2022, but it was more about who was calling the plays then, and Brent Venables needed to put his hands on that. Now, that said, I like the idea of Brent Venables being the guy who absolutely, positively calls plays. Now, getting Jim Knowles is one thing. I think big game hunting in that way is going to make it easier to sell donors on donating more money to whatever collective might be. in addition to taking better advantage of the $20.5 million salary cap that we expect to go into effect on July 1st. And that number is going to rise as the revenue sharing continues to go up. As the revenue gets bigger, you'll see that number rise, and it's going to act a lot like the collective bargaining agreements that we see in the NBA, Major League Baseball, well, not Major League Baseball, but the NFL. Do I think we're ever going to get to a place where we're collectively bargaining with players? No, I don't. I think that the universities themselves are going to come up with a way in which they want to do this while paying everybody what they are owed. I think also on top of this, there's no getting around it. Jim Knowles had a defense that was made of personnel that could absolutely, positively crush. Like, I think about Jack Sawyer. I think about JT Tuimoloau, Tyleik Williams, Cody Simon. Being able to get Arvell out there, getting Matthews out there. Latham Ransom being the kind of guy that is a box safety now. Like, he's doing what Cam Chancellor used to do for the Legion of Boom, right? And Caleb Downs is being Earl Thomas. He is everywhere all at once. And when you need him to return punts, he can do that too, and he can return them for touchdowns. He is a great player. Denzel Burke might be the weakest player on that defense, and he ain't really that weak. And come to find out, he'd been playing through an injury, which left him out of the second half against Texas. But they didn't really miss him as much as we thought they would. Now, Jordan Hancock is another guy that I just think is outstanding. And him moving to slot has really helped him in pass coverage as he's built like a linebacker. But, obviously he's a corner, and he was brought to Ohio State to be a boundary corner. Being able to have that kind of flexibility is not what Oklahoma has been in the past. Now, when Billy Bowman was Billy Bowman in 2023, my goodness, guys, like, we're talking about a guy. Peyton Bowen has that opportunity. Kendall Daniels has that opportunity. Marvin Jones has that opportunity. But they're going to have to show it first. I think Oklahoma's going to end up with a pass rush. Between R. Mason Thomas and Marvin Jones, you ought to be able to crush and get home to the quarterback. Can you cover, right? Being able to get guys like Kip Lewis to stay put, that's going to be the thing. And then developing them, well, Kip Lewis is staying put. Developing him is going to be the next thing you got to get done. I think Jim Knowles can help you with that, but his calling card has been scheme. His calling card has been coaching the defense. If Brent Venables is the guy that's got to recruit, then Brent Venables is the guy that's got to recruit. As we continue to look through what Ohio State might look like and what Oklahoma might look like in the coming future, I'm not so certain that Jim Knowles is going to leave that job. I got a hard time with that. I really do. I think wanting to wait and then shoot your shot with the guy that you want to go get is great. Perhaps that's what Bill Belichick is doing as he's hired just 7 assistants with a $10 million budget, which makes you feel like, hey, Bill, do you really want to be the head coach of North Carolina? Or are you waiting on somebody to call you to get you back to the NFL? That's not happening for Brent Venables and Oklahoma. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people that don't think that Brent Venables is going to make it past 2026, or make it to 2026, I should say. I'm not one of those people. I believe in Brent Venables. I think that he understands what it takes to win at Oklahoma. And more importantly, he understands what the standard is that Oklahoma fans have set for Oklahoma, and he's embracing that. Are there going to be some pulling, some shoving? Yeah. I think it's getting to feel a little bit like Ryan Day at Ohio State, what Oklahoma is to Brent Venables. But I hope that we would be a little bit more patient. Like, I tend to think a new conference, a tougher conference with tougher schedule, tougher opponents, better players is going to take a little bit more time to get up to speed with. But then again, seeing what Texas has been able to do in year one, right? Make the SEC championship game, make the college football playoff semifinals, the only SEC team to do that. You're thinking about Oklahoma being in that spot and what they got to do to get there. Is it going to get a guy like Brent Venables or like Jim Knowles? Yeah, it could be. It could be, right? But you need John Mateer to play lights out, because that was really the weakness for Oklahoma if we're talking about personnel. It's quarterback. And then can you keep everybody healthy? I've been harping on this point because I think it's an important one. Far too many injuries. And if you believe Nick Anderson, he just didn't trust the staff anymore. Okay. We all know that Jerry Schmidt is the legend in strength and conditioning. Like, even when I was in college and I wanted to do his job, that's a guy that everybody would point to and say, no, you want to be like Schmitty. That's one of those dudes, like Tommy Moffitt. You want to be like him, like Mick Marotti, right? Like, you want to. All of a sudden, dudes start getting hurt, and we don't look at the training staff. We look at strength and conditioning, because did you prepare them for the kind of punishment that they're going to endure? Why are we having so many ligament injuries, right? Non-contact injuries, among other things. An offensive line that is intact. Like, I keep going about the ways in which Oklahoma sucked last year. But I'm not so interested in who the coordinator for the defense is going to be. Ben Arbuckle being the offensive coordinator, we know what that's going to look like with John Mateer, or we hope, right? Maybe it's Levy and Dylan Gabriel in 2023. I think if Brent has to put his hands on the defense, it also takes away from being a head coach. And that's the reason why you want to go get a guy like Jim Knowles, somebody you ain't got to lead, you ain't got to mess with. You can come and tweak it if you need to tweak it. It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm not inclined to tell you that I think Jim Knowles is going to get this job. I am inclined to tell you that since Sooner Scoop first reported that it was a candidate they wanted to chase, it's been one on everybody's mind. I'm going to add to this. It took me a while to get around to this because I needed to get some calls back first before I felt like I could talk about this. There's an interest, right, from Oklahoma. I'm not sure there's an interest from Jim Knowles. I think Jim Knowles will be angling for a new contract like many people. But knowing that you get to play for a national championship in less than a week, yeah, that would be where my mind is. It would be on beating Notre Dame. And then after you win the national championship, you get to take a look around and see what's happening. Because, frankly, who wouldn't want to have a Jim Knowles